Fight!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fighting with Numbers. This is episode 36. Yes, this is the 36th time I have done this. I can't believe it. And I'm going to keep sounding shocked as those numbers stack up because we're going to keep going. You know what else is shocking? That the model keeps on rolling. Last week it went 4-1-1 at UFC Seattle. Cash a couple dogs along with it. It's a strong week. Push keeps us clean too. I know we don't like draws, but it kept us clean because I'm not sure Ricky Simone would have walked out of that one. And the wins keep stacking. But you know what? Speaking of that draw, I gotta say, I try not to go too long-winded on what happened previously. You guys saw the event, you know what happened. Obviously, some things outshined the draw on the card, but Ricky Simone and Yanez fought two-way draw. I was on Ricky Simone, just a small bet. He wasn't a super confident play. And I agree with the draw. Before the fight ended, I thought to myself, oh, we're probably looking at a draw here. Here's my thing. A couple things. I don't think we need the Twitter judges, right? The X posts that show up on the screen with what other people think they're watching. First of all, we don't. Now, some of us in the community know who these people are, but overall, the audience has no clue who's giving us this information on the screen that says, oh, I had Simone round one, I had Yanez round two. We don't know who these people are and what their level of commitment is to actually judging this properly. We don't know if that dude's on a cell phone somewhere, walked to the kitchen mid-round, but he's just going to tell us what he thinks. Like, we don't need that on the screen, UFC. Maybe some people do. I personally don't. I don't even listen to the commentary most of the time. But on top of that, I think people need to understand that UFC judging is a point system. At the end of the game, it's a point sport. You know, there's a 10-9 round. I heard it perfectly described, and I wish I could quote the tweet again, but it was described as UFC scoring, especially MMA in the United States. It's scored as 3 mini fights. Round one's its own thing, round two is its own thing, and round three is its own thing. Those things rarely carry over into the other rounds. So it's interesting listening to everybody talk about this Simone Yanez fight after rounds 1 and 2 saying, oh, round 1 was 50-50. Round 1 could have gone either way. Round 2 could have gone either way. Round 3 definitely went to Yanez. It's definitely a 10-8 round. But if you think the first 2 rounds went 50-50, and then don't act surprised when those first 2 rounds went to Ricky Simone. And that's how a point system works, and that's why it's a draw. Don't act shocked when the math adds up to a draw. It wasn't a robbery. I'm sorry, I got to disagree with the people that think it was a robbery. And maybe I'm looking at it with rose-colored glasses because I thought I had a potential loss on my hand when I thought Simone was going to get knocked out. But at the end of the day, it was a draw. The math adds up. You got to look at the point scoring system to fully understand how something in the UFC ends up a draw. Sorry, not sorry. If you want to get into it more, feel free to hit me up on X at @TheRabio. Follow along. Anyways, overall on the year, the model now sits at 37, 14, and 5. That's a record. I say this every week. Maybe I sound like a broken record, but that is a record I will continue to protect. We're going to continue doing exactly that because that's what we've been doing. It's what works. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is at the end of the season, quote unquote, end of the year, is stay in the money. And hey, we've been positive all year long. So why mess with things now, right? So model's been rolling along. I'm very happy with it. This week, the UFC is back at the Apex, Las Vegas, UFC Vegas 115. It's a very small card for us, very lean card. But as we've proven before, small cards can still have some nice edges if you know where to look. It's going to be headlined by Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan. Overall, I've only got 3 actual fights I can actually throw into the model. I originally had 5, and then I realized some of those guys don't even have enough cage time to really run through the model. So I actually only have 3 total fights I'm even putting into the predictions for the model this week. So that's all I'm going to break down today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but one thing you should remember is I am Rob Moreno, a.k.a. Bobby Knuckles, a.k.a. The Rabio. Find me across all social medias at that same handle, at The Rabio. Links will always be in the descriptions. And full model breakdowns and written reports will live at fightnumbers.substack.com. Those go live on Wednesdays. Why don't we just get into it? Let's kick things off here, and we're going to go right down to the prelims, way at the bottom of the prelims. Right away, there's going to be a familiar theme here, because last week we cashed on someone coming off a year plus hiatus. Casey O'Neill plus 110. I was happy to do that. That was crazy line moving because she was the favorite, then the dog, then the favorite again. We were able to grab her as the dog and happily cash that. We could see a similar theme here in this one. Diane Barboza versus Melissa Gatto. So Barboza made her UFC debut back in July of 2024 and hasn't really found the right traction since. She's 2-2 in the octagon, most recently dropping a decision to Karine Silva in December. She's sitting at 33 years old, so not old in the sport, but that runway is shortening up for her career to really take flight. So we'll see what she's got left in the tank here. Melissa Gatto returning after nearly a 2-year hiatus. She's only 29, but a 2-year hiatus is quite a while to step away from the cage. Her last appearance in the octagon was a TKO victory back in May of 2024. She's 3-2 overall in the UFC, so still kind of trying to figure out who she is in the UFC. And every single one of her 3 wins, by the way, though, has come by TKO. At flyweight in the women's division, finishers are always intriguing and dangerous, of course. Add in 4 submissions professionally, and Melissa Gatto is someone who knows how to end fights in multiple ways for sure. So, physically, Gatto has the edge. 29 years old, as I mentioned, to Barboza's 33, and she comes in with a 3-inch reach advantage at 69 inches. So, looking at the stats, XR percentage, Melissa Gatto 65%, Barboza at 47. And look, 47% after just 4 UFC fights. As I mentioned, she's 2-2. That's a concerning place to be sitting. That's not a sample size issue currently at this point. That's honestly kind of a bad pattern for Diane Barboza. The striking backs it up. Barboza's landing 2.40 significant strikes per minute with a negative 0.22 differential. Below 3 per minute attached to a negative differential is a combination that's hard to win with, as Diane Barboza is kind of shown here. I've said it before, if your output is that low, you better be elite at something else. So we'll see if she gets that. Gatto, on the other hand, lands 3.78 significant strikes per minute with a 0.95 differential. Clean, efficient, doing more damage than she's absorbing, right? That's the intent in your strike game. Both women are actually solid defensively, though, each absorbing under 3 significant strikes per minute. But Gatto is the one making her offense count, right? Diane Barboza does actually have excellent head significant strike defense, 76% specifically. So that's something to keep an eye on. Melissa Gatto does have good as well, 69%. The ground game is close. But Gatto kind of gets the edge there too. She holds a 50% control rate to Barboza's 44%, with a slightly better 64% takedown defense compared to Barboza's 56%. Neither woman dominates here. When it comes to the ground game, there's nothing really that jumps off the page. But the metrics do tilt Gatto's way across the board, really. And the model is going to agree with that. Melissa Gatto, we get a 69.76% win probability. And she's currently sitting at plus 130 as the moment I'm recording this right now, implying just 43%. It doesn't mean there's this massive gap and that the sportsbooks are completely wrong. I want to emphasize that, right? When I have a dog identified in my model, it doesn't mean the sportsbooks have it completely wrong. It's just that our model thinks she's winning closer to 70% of the time than what the odds imply, only 40% in this case. So there's still an edge gap, and there's definitely value for us to live at. Yes, the layoff is real. 2+ years from competition is significant, of course. And we always have to respect that. But as I mentioned, we just don't know what that time off looks like for anyone, right? Some fighters come back extremely rusty, slow, looking to get back into the rhythm. Other fighters come back like Casey O'Neill and win in the first round for us, right? As a plus money dog. So we just don't know what we're going to get. And all we can do here on Fighting with Numbers is look at the numbers and fight with that. So the model thinks Gatto is the better fighter on paper. The book is giving us plus money on her, plus 130. That's enough for me. That's going to go on the betting slip for the week. Now, don't hate me. We're doing 2 women's fights back to back, but hey, that's where the data is leading us. So don't hate me for this one. We're jumping straight up all the way to the co-main event. Virna Jandiroba versus Tabitha Ricci. Baby Shark. This one, honestly, right off the bat, feels like a coin flip on the surface. And honestly, the odds imply that too. They're very tight. Depending where you look, we're getting all sorts of different numbers. But the model finds a specific direction, one or the other way. So pay attention here. Virna Jandiroba. She did have a 5-fight win streak snapped in her last outing, a decision loss to Mackenzie Dern back in October. She's 37 years old, sitting 8-4 in the UFC overall. Not exactly a young fighter, but experienced. She's definitely an experienced fighter with a very specific set of tools. Across from her, Tabitha, Baby Shark Ricci, 6 years younger at 31 years old, so that's significant. 7-3 in the UFC, coming off a TKO victory over Amanda Ribas last July. She's the momentum fighter in this matchup for sure. She's got the momentum behind her. Jandiroba will hold a 3-inch reach advantage at 64 inches, and she leads on the XR percentage as well. 59% to Ricci's 50%. Even with a winning record, it is a concern to me that Tabitha Ricci is sitting right on the edge of losing more rounds than she wins, right? So that's a number worth keeping an eye on. The striking picture, well, it's messy for both, if I'm being honest. Jandiroba lands just 2.33 significant strikes per minute with a negative 0.57 differential. Low output, getting outworked on the feet. Ricci brings more volume, definitely, 4.18 significant strikes per minute, but she carries a negative 1.01 differential, meaning she's absorbing over 5 significant strikes per minute. She dishes it out, but she's going to eat it right back. Her striking accuracy also sits below 40% as well. So these are wild exchanges she gets into when they do happen. So the feet are, it's kind of even. It's almost a wash at best. Where does the fight actually get decided at that? The grappling is kind of fascinating to me because both women have legitimate cases here. Jandiroba brings a 76% control rate in clinch and ground time, 30 takedowns at 38% accuracy, and she attempts, by the way, 5.72 takedowns per 5 minutes. She doesn't stop coming. Add in 16 submission attempts and 3 submission victories she's attached to that. When she gets on you, she stays on you. She's a dog on a bone. But Tabitha Ricci, man, she comes in with a 95% control rate in the clinch and ground time. Tabitha Ricci, I was unfamiliar with your game. That number's eye-opening to me. 23 takedowns, only 37% accuracy, but she does have a 79% takedown defense to Jandiroba's 74%. This is genuinely a complicated puzzle. Two fighters with strong but very different grappling identities, neither dominant on the feet, and the odds reflect exactly that. I have seen the odds anywhere from -115, -105 on one side. When I started writing notes and when I placed my bet, Tabitha Ricci -125 and Jandiroba +105. I just checked while I'm recording this, and the odds have now completely taken shape. Virna Jandiroba is now the favorite, -120, while Tabitha Ricci is at +100, even money dog. So this is important because it shows the difference in my model and what the odds are. The model's going to cut through the noise here, and it points specifically at Virna Jandiroba. But here's why the odds are important. It's giving Virna a 66% win probability. When I ran this, she was the underdog at +105. Very small underdog, but that's important because it categorized her as a live dog, giving the confidence score and giving the odds. The model found an edge. +105, it said, take it. If Jandiroba's the dog, take it. When I run the model with her as the favorite, it says stay away. She is not strong enough to be the favorite, but yet the odds have changed. And that's the important caveat here. Watch the line on this one. If Jandiroba, stays a favorite throughout the week on fight night, the edge disappears for the model. It says stay away. She's not worth backing at a minus price, but the value is entirely in that plus money. I would consider it -105 if that's where the odds are. She's still kind of the underdog. There's still some tiny value there. But we need her as a dog or close to it, essentially, in order for there to be a play. The moment this turned into a favorite, it becomes a walk-away spot. I have Jandiroba +105. You got to keep your eyes on the movement here. If she stays favorite, I don't consider it a play. Okay, main event time. Let's go. Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan. This one is definitely the matchup itself, I'll say, is interesting. Breaking it down, very interesting. Because the rest of this fight card was not very interesting. There's a lot of empty spots on this fight card. This is definitely a filler UFC Fight Night weekend. This is the weekend. I wouldn't blame you if you skipped the whole night. But Money Moicano versus Duncan is actually a banger fight. So let's break it down. Money Moicano on a 2-fight losing streak, unfortunately. His last win was back in 2024 when he stopped Benoit Saint Denis, which is a very impressive feat. Unfortunately, after that, he followed it up with a last minute title shot at Islam Makhachev in 2025. That didn't pan well for him as he was choked out in the first round, which, all due respect, we all respect Renato Moicano for stepping in on that short notice to face what some consider pound for pound best fighter. I do not, but Islam Makhachev at the time was dominating the lightweight division. He is no longer lightweight. And Moicano walked in there. Hey, he had nothing to lose. And I mean, he kind of lost everything anyways. But since then, he hasn't really bounced back. He then faced Benil Dariush in June 2025, lost that one via decision unanimously. So now he's back, but the losing streak comes with context, right? He's not losing to scrubs, but a losing streak is still a losing streak. The numbers reflect it at the end of the day. They really do. Chris Duncan walks in with a 4-fight win streak, going 6-1 since arriving in the UFC in 2023. Most recently, he submitted Terrence McKinney in December. Guess what? In the first round, which if you heard last week's episode, you know McKinney's never seen a decision anyways. Getting a submission finish on that man is not easy either, though. So what do the stats say? The XR percentage picture goes to Chris Duncan. 69% for Duncan, 61% for Moicano. Both are solid, but Duncan has the edge just by a tiny bit. The striking, also close. Moicano lands 4.17 significant strikes per minute with a positive 0.61 differential. Duncan brings slightly more volume at 4.78 per minute, but he only carries a 0.33 differential. Little less efficient. Duncan does absorb a tick more as well, and worth noting, Chris Duncan has knocked fighters down twice in the UFC, so has Moicano, but Moicano has been dropped 4 times. Duncan, 0. That's an important factor to consider. You'll see why. The grappling is where things actually kind of get more complicated, if I'm being honest. Moicano has a 61% control rate in clinch and ground time, 20 takedowns, a remarkable 6 submission attempts, 6 submission victories in the UFC. That's a perfect rate. When he gets his hooks in, it's over. Chris Duncan comes in stronger positionally with an 81% control rate of clinch and ground time and 43% takedown accuracy. But his takedown defense sits just at 50% compared to Moicano's 62%. If Moicano gets this to the ground, he has a real path to victory here. He always does, right? Although Chris Duncan is no slouch in the submission game either. 3 submission wins for him in the UFC already. So the model runs it, and it lands on Chris Duncan, but barely. Chris Duncan, 56.87% win probability from the model. His current odds imply 65%. They're sitting at around minus 192. There is absolutely no edge here. The book has this one priced well above what the model thinks the true probability is. We're not laying minus 192 on a 56% win rate of a fighter. The total is set at 2.5 with juice to the under. So that's telling me the market thinks this ends early if Duncan wins. There are some fun props floating around. If you're really fixed on betting this and you're fixed on Chris Duncan, Duncan by knockout is what is implied as the most likely thing to happen, plus 115. But Chris Duncan by submission, plus 750. Here's the thing. Moicano's been knocked out and submitted in his time in the UFC. 5 times total finishes. But the underlying data, it just isn't strong enough for me to pull the trigger on any play here, especially not the money line, but also currently not even a method. It just doesn't see him having enough advantage for me to put any of my bankroll on him. This is going to be a stay away for the bankroll. I'll watch it for the entertainment. Moicano always delivers a show. That's one thing guaranteed from him. But the numbers just don't make sense. And I'm not going to force action on a small Apex card just because it's the main event. I think that's a huge learning lesson for people. If you're new to betting the UFC, you don't have to bet every fight. And more specifically, you don't have to bet the main event, right? I think we all get attached to the main event as the main draw. And so that's what you have to put money on. But we get 13, 12 different bouts every single night. Pick and choose which one. This week, it looks like I'm having 2 bets. That's okay. That's going to be okay. Occasionally, I do sprinkle a couple things on fight night, maybe a couple props. Maybe I work on my significant strikes projections. Those have been back and forth a couple times. Overall, it's about just protecting your bankroll. Just stay in the positive, man. Stay in the green. But main event, for now, we are staying away. And that's it. That's UFC Vegas 115. There's not a lot to shine a light on here. It's a lean card, so we're targeting our spots. And that's the apex for you, man. Thank you, UFC, for delivering the apex to us. The model, we are sitting at 37, 14, and 5 on the year. We're going to protect it. I'm going to put it in a little bubble and hold it tight. We don't manufacture action, right? We're just looking for edges, striking when necessary. Quick reminder, Fighting with Numbers, I do have the web app going still. I'm still testing it. There's still a couple things I work on every single week. I found a bug this week, so there's a reason I'm not just full on launching it out there. But if you want to look at it, if you want to play around with it, look at some of the data. I have a tail of the tape there with plenty of stats for you to look at. Hit me up on X at the Robio or Instagram. Just DM me, slide into my messages. We'll go from there. But as always, I want to say thank you so much. I noticed a huge uptick in listens this week. So respect. I appreciate everyone just tuning in, whether you're sharing it or however it's getting to you. I appreciate it. Make sure you hit subscribe, whether on YouTube or on the podcast side. 100% appreciate it so much. I'm trying to grow this and continue to grow this. We're going to blow this up. Fighting with Numbers is going to be a lifestyle, baby. Maybe not that big, but we're going to have fun doing it. So as always, follow me across all social medias at the Robio. Full written breakdowns and model data will live at fightnumbers.substack.com. And catch me on First Strike from VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. That'll be out on Wednesdays as well. That'll live on YouTube and available everywhere you get your podcast, hosted by the great Dave Ross. I get to just jump in and be a data nerd on there. So I appreciate you all tuning in. This is episode 36 of Fighting with Numbers, UFC Vegas 115. Muchas gracias for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Fight!